Okay. I'm going to call this special meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 6 p.m. At this time, Mr. Withers, would you please read the special meeting notice?
May 8th, 2020. Two members of the Municipal Council from Mark J. Cooper, Council President. Councilors, by authority of Article 2, Section 2-7C of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 at 6 p.m. The place is a remote link, and the purpose is to conduct both committee and special meeting and any legal matters before the council. Sincerely, Mark J. Cooper, Council President. CC Mayor Paul Haru.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. We're going to suspending the rules this evening in order to have the public hearings, do the Zoom link, do the meeting via video, and then to recess for committee meetings after the public hearings. Any questions or comments about that? Seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman. Mr. Waterman. Mr.
Yes.
Waterman. Okay.
Thank you.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Delisio.
Yes.
Mr. Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are operating under suspended rules. And at this time, Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice for the first public hearing this evening? Steve, can you hear me?
Steve.
Okay, I hear you now.
Okay. Would you kindly read the notice of the first public hearing this evening?
I will.
Thank you.
Public hearing relative to the following amendment to the City of Attleboro Ordinance 12-Parks, Recreation, and Forestry to increase fees charged by the Board of Recreation Commissioners and Department of Parks and Forestry.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask Mr. Corsi to come speak in favor of the changes, and then we can see if there is anyone else on the meeting that would like to address the council, either for nor against, either in favor, opposed, or neither for nor against. So at this time, Mr. Corsi, are you on? I believe you are. I think I saw you.
He's mute.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. We
Okay.
can.
All right. Well, I am in favor of the ordinance change.
You want to just give the council an update, an overview of the proposed changes and what you, the reason why you need to increase the fees that you suggested in your memo.
Okay. Well, there's two aspects to the ordinance change. I'll address the fee portion first. Last time the fees were updated, I believe it was 2015, I believe. And over the course of that period of time, the operating costs of the zoo have gone up substantially due to the raise of minimum wage. Most of the part-time staff at the zoo does work on the minimum wage. So that went up from, I believe it was $9 an hour. Now it's up to $12.50, and it's going to continue to raise yearly. In addition to that, we would also like to do some improvement projects in the zoo, new exhibits, renovation of some buildings. And, to do that, we need the capital. So that's where the fee raise comes in.
Any questions from the council? And then I just have a question on the delta in revenue. I don't remember reading what your anticipated revenue will be from where you are today to where you're going with the fees.
Yep.
Any questions from the council at this point on the proposed changes to the zoo fee?
I do.
Okay, I think that's Councilor Holmes.
Yes, thank you. So it looks like, Derek, the fees, it will start January 2nd, 2021.
Correct.
So that's what the hope is that we can get this passed and then next year the fees will be increased.
Correct. Yes.
Do you know, I know you said 2015, is it usually something that happens once every 5 years? I'm just trying to get an understanding of how often.
It was very sporadic. I did a little research, and there was a long period of time before 2015 where there was no fee increase. And it's kind of sporadic. There's no rhyme or reason to how it's done. From what I could research, I don't know if some of the veteran counselors would have a little more insight on that, but that's what I found.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Derek at this time?
Mark?
Yes, Councilor Delicio.
Thank you. Derek, thanks for coming in front of us tonight. I know this is a unusual forum. I was actually the ordinance chair when we raised the fees the last time. I think it was back in probably 15, 16, I think you're right. And I think it was just kind of a sign of the times where they were, because it had been sporadic back then, and a lot of research went into it. I know, like you said, it was to help with the salaries. Excuse me, and some of the major repairs that were going on the facade. I think some of the aviary house rather.
Yeah.
But so my question for you, Derek, is these projects that you're talking about for the capital that you need, how essential is this being done right now, just given the financial landscape we're in, and asking visitors of the zoo to put more on their backs and on their plates when we are facing economic times that we really haven't seen in probably the last 10 to 12 years?
Yeah, well, a lot of the work that needs to be done are projects to, the facilities that are existing that have been kind of let go over the past 10, 15 years, and that need to be addressed, or else we will have trouble maintaining our AZA accreditation. These are not, wants, these are needs that have to happen. And in comparison to a lot of the area entertainment venues, we're still going to be the lowest compared to everyone, compared to Buttonwood Zoo, compared to Franklin Park, Roger Williams, movie tickets, the trampoline parks. We're still going to be the cheapest out of everyone to bring the family. So that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to raise the price, but also not raise, our relative status in the lineup of entertainment in the area.
So if I'm hearing you right, these are essential programs in order to keep the AZA accommodation, which we fought pretty hard for back 5 years ago.
Correct. Yes.
And what impact do you see this summer? And I'm sure the attendance will probably be down due to social distance and personal distance protocols. What impact do you see that having?
The raise in price? The raise in price is going to start in January. So
No, I understand that. What I'm asking is on the zoo this summer, what impact do you foresee because I'm assuming attendance will be down, and if nothing else, just because of social and personal distancing protocols?
Yeah, I think the major impact that we're going to experience is we can't run the splash pad this summer due to the regulations. And a lot of people attended the zoo just to use the splash pad. So you really can't predict what that will lead, but I expect some sort of drop with that. The social distancing aspect, we've run some calculations, and we can have up to 450 people in the zoo at one time under the criteria that the governor put out. And that lines up with our general rate of admission during a regular day anyway. So I don't see that being too much of an issue. It's more of the splash pad and, the difference in revenue right now, we can't open up the concession stand until, we sort things out. That side of auxiliary stuff.
Okay, good. Thank you. I was just trying to really illustrate why you need to have these important projects taken care of. Thank you, Derek.
Yep. Hi, Kate. I see you.
Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you very much, President Cooper. Hi, Derek.
Hi.
Hi. So basically, you're saying when you open up to the public, you're kind of like a grocery store, but outdoors, because
Yes.
it allowed so many people inside. And they're just going to be passing back and forth, but still have the masks and things on. That's great news to hear. I mean, because families are dying to get out there, and families are just anxious. We kind of knew the fee rate was going to increase, because way back when they decided to change the minimum rate for minimum raise, people expected something like this to happen. Like, I can remember the YMCA was saying little things like this was going to happen with their camps, and the minimum wage once it went up like this, other rates were going to have to eventually climb up. So there's no surprise here that we have to raise them. But
and we try to keep it as low as possible.
Yes, good. And how are the animals doing?
They're doing great.
Good.
They're ready for some visitors, though.
I bet. Thank you very much.
No
Derek,
problem.
I just have two. One's more of a comment, the other's a question. I'm assuming that the Friends of Capron Park Zoo are in support of this increase. Generally, they have, if this was a public meeting that we were having here in City Hall, I think in 2015, they were pretty involved in supporting this measure. So that's an assumption I'm making, and I'm sure it's a fair one. Otherwise, I probably would have heard from at least one of them that I know well. I think it's to highlight Councilor Delicio's comments. I know the fee increases don't go up until January, as you stated, but there will be an impact to your maybe this year, but also next year, given the fact that it costs a certain amount of money to run the zoo at baseline. And, there will have to be some discussion, not today, but just so that you're aware and the council is aware, around the zoo revolving fund, right? Because you'll all remember that the zoo is pretty self-sufficient through the revolving fund, and without that revenue, it won't be.
Yeah,
So,
and we're in a tough position now where we haven't had revenue for 2 months, basically. And unlike small businesses, we couldn't go out and get the PPP loan. We're kind of running off of our reserves right now.
Yeah, and I heard that the number to run the zoo on a monthly basis is, somewhere around $70,000. So that's what I heard. I don't want to put that out there as fact, but I would like you to keep the council up to speed on, through the mayor and through the appropriate channels, on what's going on with that revolving fund, because that could have an impact to other things in the city, and I don't want to lose sight of that. So thank you for. Anybody else have any questions for?
I do, Mark.
Hi, Sarah. Go ahead, Council Reynolds.
So I just have also, it's more like a question comment. It kind of falls in line with a couple of things that people have said. I realize we knew fees were going to increase, but maybe people will still not be working. They have no income. So I'm concerned about any increases on anything that we do at this moment in time, even though I realize it may not occur until 2021. But I think we have to be really diligent and consider that we have not a huge income in Attleboro, and there are lots of people that were saddened by the fee increase when we made it the last time, and now we have people that aren't even working. and may not even get back to work. So I think we have to consider that and keep that on our, in front of us and on our plate, and just remember to realize that. And that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, and that was part of the reasoning why I wanted to push it to 2021. Originally, when we were working these things out, we were going to do it coinciding with the fiscal year, but obviously that's not something you want to do, is increase the fees, during this time. So we're hoping by January, things will be settled down a little more and it'll be more palatable to the public.
I appreciate that, Derek. Thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Corsi?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir. Mr. Conti?
Derek, in the past, the zoo has been had a policy where they would allow senior discounts. Is that going to remain in place at the same levels as in the past?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Corsi? Okay. Derek, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem.
Is there anyone else here, anyone else on the line to speak in favor? You know what? I have a technical question. Councilor Kobus, if they want to speak in favor, are they going to have to identify themselves through the chat function in order to do that?
If they could just raise their hand.
Okay.
You say, anybody else in favor? They could raise their hand and we can promote them at that time.
Okay. Yeah, because we'll have to give them the ability to address the council. So if there's anybody out there on the line that would like to address the council on this matter, I don't see anyone else on the line that's not a councilor or I don't see anybody else on the line. That's not us or Derek, but I'll just keep going through. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone on the line to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone neither for nor against? Okay, seeing none. Councilor Holmes, we discussed today keeping this public hearing open so that we could hopefully get some input from the public. If there was any interest, they could forward comments to us via the admin, and that could be sent to all the council to consider, given the fact that we are doing this. We did have a few, not too many, if my memory serves me right, in 2015, but I did have people reach out to me directly after it was in the paper. So I think it's important at this time to leave this public hearing open. Councilor Holmes, do you see any reason why we should close?
No, I agree with that. This is just an unusual circumstance, and I just want to give the public an opportunity, if they are hearing about this for the first time, to let us know. And I appreciate this, but I also think that it was written in a time when everything wasn't happening, and I just want to be kind of mindful of that. And so if we can just give it like an extra week or two, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, I think that's great. We will leave that. We will leave this public hearing open and continue it until when's not the 26th, the week meeting after that, 6/2. Am I right? Let me just go. Yeah, okay.
Wow.
So that public hearing will be continued till June 2nd. Thank you, Derek, for joining. And we will move on to the next public hearing, except
Yep.
I don't see the water superintendent on the call.
Name's up on the board now, Mark.
Oh, there she is. Okay. Perfect. All right, Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice of the next public hearing?
Yes, this is a public hearing relative to the following amendment to the City of Attleboro Ordinance 16-10 through 14, water fees and installations to increase fees charged by the Water Department.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask the Superintendent of the Water Department, Ms. Winchell, to address the council on this, in favor of this matter. Courtney, I see you just joined. Welcome. Thank you for joining, and the floor is yours.
Okay. For water department fees, the last ones that were actually looked at was all in the cross connection ordinance, and that's been since 2013 or 14. For permitting and other fees, it predates me, so it's prior to 2010. And what we're running into right now is that the fees that we're charging for permits and other services aren't actually covering the labor involved with the services. So for instance, when we have a new main installation, right now we're charging $495. It's much more costly than that. And these costs are getting absorbed by the rate currently, and they shouldn't be.
Courtney, I'm going to pause you for just 1 second.
Sure.
They've been removed.
Okay, to make a comment, whoever's posting that, knock it off.
They've been removed.
Thank you. You can continue, Courtney. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay. There's also several new fees. There's services that we don't currently charge for that are in there. One of them is an application fee for an irrigation meter. When someone applies for an irrigation meter right now, there's no charge. There's labor involved with the office, labor involved with inspection of the irrigation meter. And then instead of billing for one meter in the office, it ends up being more treated like two accounts. And it's all for whoever has the irrigation meter to be able to get a rebate. So there's a new fee for that. There's another new one that is in there, and it is for hydrant setup rentals. Right now, if we have a contractor use a hydrant, they're charged a $200 fee, and that's fine. It covers inspection, operation of the hydrant, any backflow testing involved. But what we run into constantly with contractors is that they show up without a setup in a meter or without an appropriate setup or meter, or they'll show up with a failed backflow device. So what I would like to do at the department is purchase some setups for rental, have contractors charged a deposit that will be returned to them when the setup comes back in good shape or when it's returned at all, in addition to a $300 a week charge to cover the cost that we'll have to replace these setups every few years. So those are the major new ones that are in there.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Winchell at this time from the council?
Mark,
Councilor Blair.
Courtney, what is the percentage on the increases going to be roughly?
It depends on the service. Some of the smaller ones like turn on shutoffs and that sort of thing. Right now we're charging $20. It's going to go up to $25. And it's just to charge the time for the crew to go out there and do it. Some of them are more substantial. The one that's actually a lot more is the main extensions. Again, right now we charge $495 for a main extension. And basically that doesn't even cover plan reviews, office paperwork, getting the crew out there doing research in the fields. That's barely covering that. The proposed is a $2,000 base fee plus $4 per linear foot. So what this captures is larger subdivisions where the crew is out there making multiple inspections. There's flushing, there's sampling, there's scheduling with contractors, there's repeated site visits. The plan reviews aren't as quick to do a whole subdivision as it is to just do a small main extension for, you know, a couple more houses at the end of a street. The other proposed fee on main.
We lost you, Courtney.
Did you lose the connection?
Still showing her, but there's no voice.
And she's not moving.
Pictures froze.
Courtney, we lost you.
I can relate to this problem.
Okay, Mr. Wizard.
I'm sending her a text right now.
Thank you.
Mark, do we have a copy of all the increases in the water department fees?
Mhm.
Virginia has that.
Yes.
Thank you. I've had a couple inquiries already.
That was in our packet when we originally got the increase request.
So, Mr. President, I just have two questions for Courtney, and we could register them, I think, and she could get back to us later.
Okay.
The two questions I have is, number one, what are in other cities that have water systems similar to our scope and size, are our new fees in line with their fees? And the second question was, does the Commonwealth regulate a maximum fee level for any of the services produced by the water department? And then if those two questions could be addressed, I'd be grateful.
She's back, so she's on mute. There she is.
Sorry, we lost the Wi-Fi for a minute.
So Courtney, I have just two questions for you. One is in other communities who have a water system of our size and scope, are our new fees in line with their fees? Or are we below? Are we above?
We're actually about average. When I did my research on this, I looked at several systems. I looked at the other cities in Bristol County as well as interconnected departments. And we're actually mostly about average. We have a neighboring community that if someone wants to go and lay a 12-inch water main in, you're looking at $100,000 to $150,000, which is way more than we're asking. What's proposed is proposed just to cover costs.
So Courtney, what cities are those that have water systems similar to ours?
I looked in Fall River. Oh, bear with me. Fall River, North Attleboro. I looked at Pawtucket, but I didn't use their numbers because it's out of state. Seekonk. New Bedford. And there's one more off the top of my head.
So Courtney, my second question was, does the Commonwealth get involved in setting limits to your fees?
Only one. There's only one in there that there's any sort of regulation on what we charge. And that is the meter testing fee. And if you look, it's only $11. And right now we're charging $3. I'm increasing it to $11. And it actually, to test a meter takes about an hour. It doesn't even cover the labor of the person doing it. There's nothing else in there that we're charging for that we shouldn't be.
Thank you, Courtney, and thank you, Mr. President.
Keeps muting me for some reason. Councilor Delicio, I believe you had a question for Courtney.
Courtney, I certainly understand the strain that this seems to have on your department. Can you walk me through what's the urgency to get this done now? Again, as we talked about with Derek as well, during these economic times where essentially the economy's been almost unplugged for the last 2 months. Do you see that causing an issue for the rate for the customers as well as the contractors?
It won't actually cause an issue for the residents at all. Again, like I said earlier, the residents right now, when we have a contractor come in and build a subdivision, the actual ratepayer, the residents are the ones swallowing that cost right now through the rate. They shouldn't be. Contractors, again, I'm sure they're not going to be happy with an increase on anything. We've actually had contractors come into the office and comment when we hand them, again, that $495 permit, that if they were in North Attleboro, they'd be paying $100,000. So, you know, it's comparable when these contractors go and build in other communities, it's comparable to what they're going to pay when they build somewhere else besides Attleboro.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm less concerned about North Attleboro, more concerned about Attleboro.
Right.
These fee increases, do you see if it's going to be the contractors, do you see that having any effect on the rate itself? Will it help to stabilize? Are we talking when you say that right now the ratepayer is actually taking that on when they're paying the bulk of it? Are you seeing any of that ownership shift away from the ratepayer?
It should, and you know, that's the hope. And again, we've been level funding at least the last couple years, and budget's tight. It definitely is, and you know, those, when it gets tight for so long, it affects the rate. So this will be a way, instead of increasing more to the residents to get, you know, all this building and contracting going on, it'll push it back to the people that actually should be paying for it. You know, right now you have residents paying for development in their water rate.
All right, thank you.
Courtney, if everything was the same as last year, and clearly you'll have more of one thing this year or the following year with these rate increases, but if you just compared apples to apples and had the same amount of work, what's the dollar amount difference between, say, last year and this year, or next year with the proposed increase?
It all depends on building. It depends how busy the building season is. And it's kind of hard to tell this year with everything shut down.
Right.
It's not going to make a huge dent in the revenues for the department. It's not like, you know, we'll be able to see the rate go down or anything like that.
But do you expect a $10,000 difference? Did you plan on a $50,000 difference, $100,000? What's the difference that you built into the budget as you considered this fee increase, right? Because there had to be an amount that you used to then consider what the rate would be.
Yeah, best guess on what this would do on an average year for revenue, probably low six figures.
So what does that mean? Like, narrow it down a little bit more for me. You know, you're talking $100,000 or you're talking $300,000?
I would say probably not much more than 100. But again, typical year, and it depends on building season. And it also depends on the fee. There is one increase in there for cross-connection surveying. And that'll affect the budget directly. Right now, we're paying $50. We're charging $50, and we're actually paying a contractor $75. So it's a money loss of 25 times 200 per year. So that one's a direct effect, even though it's smaller.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any additional questions for the water superintendent?
Mark,
Council Blair.
this is a question to both of you. Do you think that it would be right to hold this public hearing open so that the contractors can come before us
Yeah,
agree.
I think this public hearing will also remain open in an effort to solicit input from the public in writing that can then be considered by the council. I anticipate getting more comments in writing on these public hearings than, for obvious reasons, than having people come before us at this time or to log into a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, because this is quite difficult for a lot of people to log in, including myself.
Any other?
No,
Go ahead. Did you have another follow-up question?
It's fine, Mark.
Mark, I got one more.
My only comment, Courtney, would be if you could fine tune that number. There has to be a number that you considered when you plugged this into the budget to determine what next year's rate should be. And I if you could just respond by email to Virginia with what that number was that you considered when you did the budget for the next fiscal year, that would be great. And any other questions?
Mark, I have one.
Yes, Councilor Delissio, go ahead.
Courtney, has there been any talk about potentially putting this on the back burner for a year to see how we all come out of this current situation we're in?
I'm sorry, can you?
Has there been any thought or concern, conversation rather, about putting this on the back burner until this time next year, given the situation we're in financially as a country?
There has not. That would be something I would have to bring up with the mayor.
Okay, I'm just thinking, how impactful would that be to what you're trying to achieve? I think, we just got to kind of look at things holistically at this point.
Right.
Thank you.
And I think also, Courtney, worth noting to the council in your analysis of the amount of money, what the impact might be if you postponed it till, say, January, like the zoo fee increase. That would
2021.
Yes. So what Derek did was propose the fee increase for January of 2021. That gives us time to get through the here and now, but also to react to any changes if we needed to peel it back or evaluate whether or not it was appropriate to go forward. And I think we all understand that if this is a large number that was contemplated as part of the budget, it is going to affect the rate.
Right.
So that's why it's important for me to understand what that rate number is that you considered as you built the rate for the next fiscal year. Any additional questions for? Yes.
Courtney,
Oh,
one more.
Go ahead, Councilor Blair. I heard somebody else too.
Courtney,
Councilor
will this affect,
But go ahead, Councilor Blair.
these increases affect development in construction at this time?
I'm sorry?
Will this fee increase affect a construction project that's ongoing?
Right now, no, it would not, because they would have already paid their permit fees.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I did want to mention too, because we keep going back to FY21 budget. These fees would be collected in FY21. So we wouldn't have access to them until retained earnings for 2021, which would actually fall in FY22 in the fall.
Which is even more reason for my request, right? So I just want to make sure that I understand your answer to Councilor Blair's question, because I think if you had a subdivision the water line going into a subdivision in the subdivision and they paid for that, does that pay for all the cross connections? So if we timed this out and the fee increases were effective 7/1 and on 8/1 they came for a connection to the house, or they needed the meter for the house that they built 1,000 feet down the road, they would pay the new fee on the connection to that house and the meter for that house, not what the old one was, despite the fact that the line was put in under the old fee schedule. Is that a true statement?
If they had not already applied for those permits, yes.
That's right. Okay, I thank you for that clarification. Councilor Dolan, I believe, was next, and then I think Councilor Conti, but I'm not sure.
So the only comment I had, Courtney, if you were going to get figures to us, I'd like to know, because I understand people wanting to put this off because of the economic times, but I don't want to put anything off that we're losing money on, because we're struggling as a city as well. So if you could, I know there are a couple instances that you said that we were losing money on, and it sounded pretty substantial when you said 25 times 200, that's $5,000 a year. So I get the point of wanting to consider putting this off because of the economic times, but you know, us as a city, we're also losing money as well, and that doesn't seem proper. So I'd like to know what it, like, if you could just reiterate, you know, in your email what we're losing money on, because I don't see waiting on something like that. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, Councilor Reynolds. Councilor Conti, did you have a comment first, and then Councilor Reynolds?
I just have an observation, if I may put this out to the councilors, that if the town of North Attleboro is charging $100,000 and it's not stopping development, we should be thinking about whether or not we're being aggressive enough in our fees. I know the economic times are difficult, but what's going on there? What are the dynamics there where $100,000 versus $450 is a very, very sizable difference, and it has a big impact on the department. So I think I've got some phone calls to make, and that includes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
So, Councilor Cooper, I'm more in line with your thinking, and I think I would also ask that, as you said, for this to be extended, this public hearing to be extended, because I do think that it, once again, these put the builders in a position of being behind the 8 ball again, especially many of them having issues in the last 2 months as well financially. It's to me no different than the big banks charging the people that can ill afford the highest interest rates. They get the highest interest rates, and the people with the money pay the minimal interest rate. So to me, to start throwing all these higher fees on people that have just seen whether, you know, I mean, maybe you don't agree this country should have been shut down. And so now here they are, and they've lost everything. So I have a lot of strong feelings on whether this is the time, and do we really need it? So unless we have definitive figures that tell us exactly what is going on, when and how, I would be totally opposed to this. And that's all I have.
Any other additional comments or questions for Courtney at this time?
Mark.
Is that Councilor Delicio, I think?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. There you go.
Just a question, Courtney. So these funds would go into your retained earnings, right? They wouldn't go into the general government's general fund, correct?
Right.
Okay. So again, and that's more the reason why I think, like, sure, the city's struggling. We've got some challenges. Every other city in the country does. But I think as this relates, I think to Sarah and Mark's point, and even Peter's, it would be a little short-sighted of us not to get some feedback from the contractors and give us time to research, really find out what exactly is the process in North Attleboro. Why are they charging as much? Because, you know, when we think about the money that's coming in and we think about new growth, a lot of it lately has been on that development. So, you know, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to encourage that development when appropriate to continue in order to grow that new growth.
Any additional questions or comments for the water superintendent? Okay. Courtney, thank you very much for coming tonight. And the, whose committee is this in?
Counselor Holmes.
Counselor Holmes. I'm going to go through, see if anybody else is on the line, but I don't see anyone else, but that, let me just scroll through
President
here.
Cooper.
Yes.
So when you see like at the bottom of your screen where it says chat 67, I don't know, I'm Todd, one of you can answer that. Does that mean that's that many people are listening to us, or they're following us, or they're, I don't know what that means.
Oh,
That just means how many chat messages there are.
Yeah, and it's a lot of spam and crazy comments that they have, that
Oh.
either Jim Jones or Council Cobus have kicked them out of the Zoom meeting.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. Are there any additional, is there anyone else on the line to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? Seeing and hearing none, this public hearing is also going to be continued until June 2nd. Courtney, thank you very much. And I know you'll be back for the loan order.
Yes.
Couple of public hearings away.
I have Tom Hayes is under the same login because we're sharing a
Okay,
laptop. So don't bump me out yet.
Okay, we're going to read that public hearing notice and then recognize Tom next. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice for the third public hearing this evening?
Yes, it's a public hearing relative to the following amendment to City of Attleboro Ordinance 16-15, building sewers connection to increase fees charged by the wastewater department.
Thank you. Again, at this time, I will recognize Mr. Hayes to speak in favor, who is the wastewater superintendent for the city. Tom, thank you for joining, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the ordinance change to increase the fees. Currently, most of the fees that we collect for these permits are not coming close to covering the costs associated, and the ratepayer is actually carrying the burden of the contractors who are building all these developments, because it has to come from somewhere, so it's coming from the rate. So we've proposed some increases in fees. We changed some language in the ordinance for basically some errors that we found. And we're also introducing a new ordinance tonight. We're required by EPA to have an amalgam mercury program up and running by October 17th, which means we have to have this on the street by July 17th, because we have to do a 3-month notification period to the dentist offices in the city. So that's something that we're also going to be bringing up tonight.
Okay. Any questions at this time, or Tom, you can just continue with your presentation, and then I'll recognize the council at the end if you just want to do that.
Sure. Basically, we have a lot of the same issues that water has. Very similar permits, except those are for sewer connections. I basically took all the permits that we issue and that we enforce, and I interviewed all my staff, and we came up with a cost analysis of all the time spent and just in labor cost alone to administer that permit. This doesn't include any clerical staffing. It doesn't include all the dig safe marking we have to go out and do. It doesn't include the support vehicles and equipment that are required to do this. It's just on the ground, inspecting the sewer connection, inspecting the sewer extension, in the industrial pretreatment, the sampling required, the oversight of the industries, things like that. It's all labor costs. That's where we came up with our numbers. So first thing we did was in the building sewer connection, they were broken down into 2 classes. We expanded that to 3 classes. We felt that the 2 classes did not represent what we issue permits on. So we have an installation for a single residential sewer connection, which was which was $300. We've increased that fee to $500, and this is based, like I said, on actual cost that we calculated to actually carry out this permit. Installation of multi-units and condominiums. They require more time. Obviously, you're talking more than one dwelling. We're requesting a fee of $650. Prior to this, it was only a $300 fee, but we feel because there's a lot more involved when you start getting into multi-units and condos that we should, it takes more time on the ground. So that's why we asked for a fee increase. The installation of commercial sewer connections. Commercial sewer connections were increased to $650, and that's based on the complexity of most commercial connections. When you're dealing with an industry or business, there's a lot more oversight, there's a lot more plan review, a lot more visits need to be paid to the industry. And we've also added some fees that were never really specifically called out in the ordinance, but they were always charged. We've always charged a $300 fee for any alteration or repair to a single family or a multifamily connection or a commercial sewer connection. When somebody has a sewer line problem, they have to replace their connection. We feel that the $300 is fair. We don't intend on raising that, but we did add the extra category of multi-unit condominium. We did separate that out from just a regular single family dwelling. Another fee that we've always charged, but we never actually had in the ordinance, was a commercial grease interceptor. So anytime a restaurant goes into town, they have to install a grease interceptor in the parking lot to handle any fats, oils, and grease. We've always charged a fee on this, but it's never actually been supported in the ordinance. So we're proposing a $650 fee. There's a lot of work and research that goes into sizing the grease interceptor and permitting one. Let's see what else we got here. And we have also added to the ordinance a $300 fee for the alteration of repair of a commercial grease interceptor. We've increased the fee for an industrial sewer connection to $650. And that was all based on time spent enforcing that permit and the inspection time. We also propose increasing the fine for anybody found working without a sewer connection permit. Right now, the fine is $50 for the first offense and $100 for any subsequent offense afterwards. We propose to double the fine. We're hoping this will deter people from working illegally without permits, because it still happens quite often. Somebody will go in and they'll decide they're going to tie in a sewer on the weekend or something like that. They just won't pull the permit. It's not a safe practice. That generally means they're digging in the road. No dig safe markings. They don't know what they're doing. So we are requesting that is increased. The next section that we're going to talk about increasing is the section 16-15.11. This deals with wastewater discharge permit applications. This is for the industrial pretreatment program. Right now, we had one classification for industrial discharges, and we had a permit that was renewable every 5 years. What we propose is a two-class system. Class 1 would be industrial permitted users that actually discharge to the sewer system. So these require a lot of oversight. These are what the industrial pretreatment department takes care of, and it is the responsibility of them to sample and inspect these industries on a regular basis. So what we propose is that the fee is increased to $10,000 renewable every 5 years. And we added the class 2, which is closed loop systems. We do have some industrial users in the city that actually do their own treatment and they discharge off-site. But regulations require that we still have oversight and inspection on them. So that fee would be $2,000 renewable every 5 years, and that's covers the cost of the inspectors going out and inspecting them and doing any necessary paperwork, any necessary filings with the EPA. We also propose an increase in the sewer main extension to $1,000.
Page you on, Tom? Excuse me, what page you on?
I'm sorry, page 11 of my memo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we propose a sewer extension permit fee of $1,000. We spend a lot of time when you have a cul-de-sac that goes in, and these things take a long time to build. My inspectors can be out there 2 or 3 times a week, multiple hours at a time. When you get into force main systems, a lot of these cul-de-sacs are putting in force main systems. Every connection has to be tested. It's a 2-hour test per connection that they have to witness for pressure test. And basically, we were doing this all for $495, which means all that labor cost has been falling on the ratepayer all these years, and they've been picking up the cost for the contractors for building their big developments. So we are proposing $1,000, and we are looking for a $4 per linear foot cost. This is based off of a cost from New Bedford, I believe, and a 25% maintenance cost. And the reason for the maintenance cost is that's going to be based on the overall cost of the permit. Is it allows us to recapture some of the money that we are going to incur, because once the city accepts this road, we now own this sewer main for life, and we have to do regular cleaning, regular service on this structure, and it's just to help offset that. It won't take long to eat up that money that of the 25% in maintenance cost of that line, but at least it's better than starting with nothing. So that's why we proposed that maintenance fee on top of the permit. The next one that we did propose changing was the commercial user discharge. This is the fat soils and grease permit. Before it was $100 lifetime permit. We're proposing the $250 renewable every 2-year permit. Present $100 does not cover the cost of administering that program. That's one of the most costly programs to administer, believe it or not, because it's very hard to track down the owners of a lot of these establishments. A lot of them do not live in the city. And we feel that by making it renewable every 2 years, it holds them more accountable to us, because right now things can change hands and it's very hard to track who owns some property sometimes. So that's the reason for that. And the other part of the memo you have from me is on page 11. That's an entirely new section of the ordinance, 16-22, dental amalgam mercury program. Like I had mentioned before, the EPA designated us as the control authority for dental amalgam mercury separators. So basically every dentist practice in the city has to separate amalgam mercury from their waste stream because it's toxic, because it is mercury based. The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection had been managing this program since the 90s. The state's in really good compliance here. I believe we're 95+% compliant across the state. But now the EPA has finally adopted the language and the rules and regs a couple of years ago that puts the control of these programs under the federal government. And as their control authority in the city, our industrial pretreatment, we are responsible for now carrying out a program. And we do have deadlines. Like I said, I believe July 17th we have to have all of the letters issued and the permit applications issued, because we have a 3-month notification period to these dentist offices to meet the requirements of the program. And we have to have them all in the program by October 17th of this year, or we're in non-compliance with the EPA. So that's what this section is. This outlines, and basically it follows the boilerplate template that the EPA provides as to how the program has to be worded and what it needs to contain. We are requesting the permit fee with this program as well, of $2,000 renewable every 5 years. And that is based on other industrial programs that we have and knowing what it takes to sample and how much time is required for inspections and paperwork. So that's where that fee is based on. It's all based on, we try to cost everything out ourselves internally as to what we actually feel that is, we're not looking to make money, we're just looking to break even. And the industrial program by design is not even supposed to come on the backs of the ratepayer. It's supposed to be totally self-funded, the entire program. That's the way it was set up. It's never going to happen in the city. We don't have enough industry to support it. But anything that is not paid by the industrial dischargers, the ratepayer ends up paying in the end. Because the money has to come from somewhere.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for that overview. I have the same question for you as for that I asked Courtney. So you're at a little bit of an advantage because you might have been able to calculate it while she was being asked the question. But really, what's the amount or the anticipated revenue increase as a result of this fee increase?
I could say it's not going to be great. We don't have as many fees as the water department, obviously. Depending on the housing, we may see $20,000 to $50,000. Depends on how much building's going on. Like I said, the industrial permits, those are renewable. If you're not in the renewal cycle, you're not going to see the money. There's not a lot of industries that are actually permitted in the city anymore. Everybody pulled out of Attleboro a long time ago with the rest of the country and went mostly overseas because there's the environmental regulations don't exist like they do in this country. So we lost a lot of our industries. So our program is not as big as it used to be, but it still needs to be there. So I really don't anticipate a huge revenue increase. Maybe on a renewal year, we may see close to 6 figures, but it's not going to be earth shattering. It's something. It's better than nothing. It's something that the ratepayer doesn't have to support like they have been for a lot of years.
Great. Thank you. Any members of the council have questions?
I have one, Mark.
Council Reynolds.
I heard both Tom and Courtney talk about the ratepayer seeing these costs, yet both of them said something similar, that there's no guarantee that the ratepayer will see less costs after this. So I have concerns about that. And as you know, my concerns run the same way as the previous two, that I would like to see this public hearing continued. Those are my comments. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, this public hearing will also remain open.
Thank you.
Just so that we can get additional public input. Any other questions from members of the council or any at this time for Mr. Hayes?
Me, Kate.
Council Jackson.
Thank you very much. First of all, you know, I read that dental amalgam clause in here. And I just want to tell you, when you get to 2nd Street and Connie Street, you're going to have some problems. I worked for all the dentists that worked in that building. And there's a lot of amalgam going down those drains, let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, they all are in compliance. In Attleboro, we have already gotten the database together for the dentists. It's just we're continuing what the DEP started. We're continuing their work, and we're going to continue their program and do the inspections. They do have the separators that are required, so it's not like we're starting from scratch. We're starting on a program that the state really did a good job maintaining. So we're lucky in that sense that we're not starting a whole new program like the FOG program when we started that up from scratch, or even the IPP program back in the the 80s when we started that. So we're in good shape. It's just going to be basically an exchange of who's in charge. The state is going to get handed over to us.
Thank you.
Program.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions from the council at this time? Okay. Tom, thank you very much.
Council Blair was up there.
Oh, Councilor Blair, sorry.
Mark, is this going to be continued also?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, it's Jay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Tom, same question that I asked Courtney is, when you come back to us, can you get us the impact that it's going to have on the rate? But I'm also curious about if this didn't pass at this point in time, maybe held off till January or even July of next year, what impact would that have on your retained earnings? Would you be able to make up the difference with what's in the retained earnings in the interim?
We're going to make up the difference no matter what the retained earnings. Obviously, we haven't raised the rate and we're not keeping up with inflation by the way things are going. But we're not going to see the revenues from this until fiscal 22 budget. So anything we start collecting after July 1st, we're not going to have access to really until we set the budget for 22. So this year it's going to do nothing. It's just going to start to bring revenue in that come 22 we'll be able to use to reduce that budget. Like I said, it's not going to be a lot, but it's a start. It's just something that I honestly feel that the ratepayers are picking up the cost for a lot of things that that this hopefully will give some relief to, or it may not be noticeable. We're not going to be able to lower the rate over it because we're always going into retained earnings just to balance every year. But at least we won't have to dip in maybe as much, and we can start to balance and get a little bit closer to where we need to be over time. We don't do enough large projects, and we're not asking for huge fees like a lot of communities would. We're trying to cover our costs. We're trying to be fair about it. And, we looked at what we honestly felt we spent doing it and what the personnel rate was. And we're only looking at the cost of personnel directly involved. We're not looking at any support staff or anything else, just the cost of the people out there inspecting the permit, meeting with the contractors, that type of work. We're not capturing the whole thing. If we did that, the fees would obviously be much higher than we'd be asking for right now, much higher.
No, I get that. That makes sense. It's just, these are interesting times to say the least. I think that our job is to ask these questions. Our job is to figure out the impact on the residents, on the taxpayer, as well as the businesses. Because as I stated earlier, we're going to need the businesses. A lot of the businesses, the reality is they're not going to be able to come back once the economy opens. And, is it ever going to fully open? And, we talk about fog, and that's been a point of contention in front of this council since its inception. We talk about, impact to the contractors and new construction. I mean, these are all very real scenarios that we face.
Yeah, I think what happens is whatever we don't collect in the fees that goes to the ratepayer, it's just going to get spread among everybody. So everybody's going to be paying for that contractor's development, opposed to just the contractor paying up front for it. It's going to get spread around. There's no other way to do it. We still have to do business. We still have to pay bills. And if the revenue is not coming in to sufficient enough to pay for it, it's going to come out of the rate no matter what, because we still have to provide the service in the end.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I just still think that these are some of the questions that need to be asked. We would be doing our job if we didn't ask these questions.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Mr. Hayes at this time? Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? I don't think there's anybody else on, but let me just check again. I don't see anybody else. Anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Again, this public hearing will remain open.
President Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Caponegro raised his hand to speak.
How come I don't see him here?
He's in the attendee list.
He is? Uh-huh. All right.
I'm going to cross the bottom of my screen, Mark.
Yeah, the issue is I'm working on the cell phone here, so the screen is small.
Okay, I have allowed Joe to talk.
Okay, great. Mr. Caponegro, thank you for coming.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is the first time using Zoom on something like this, so I apologize if I didn't make any error. My only comments at this time, I just came into this by chance over the cell phone, and I was unaware of either of the hearings. But at this time, and I would, as far as make further comments if allowed, in writing or if it is verbally, it's always been my understanding, and I've spoken before the city council many times about increases in fees. And fees are supposed to be reflective of the services rendered. And it isn't supposed to be anything extra going into the city for, just general government. And so as a contract, and I know many contracts, we're aware that we have to pay for the services rendered and the hours spent, doing those services. However, when I hear things like North Attleboro charges $100,000 and it hasn't stopped development, or as far as New Bedford charges $4 a foot, we only charge $1 a foot. Let's make sure if the fee increase, it is fair for the services rendered. And I believe that's actually part of state law. I'm not a lawyer, but over the years and hearing about fees, it's always been, it has to be specific to the services rendered. It can't be anything extra that goes into the city pot just to fund other things in the city. That's my only concern when I hear about anything about fees being increased. If they're fair and reflect true actual increase in costs, then we have to do it. I understand that as a citizen and a developer. Thank you.
Thanks. And Mr. Caponegro, we are leaving this public hearing open and would welcome yours or anyone else's written comments or verbal comments on June 2nd.
I appreciate that, Mr. Cooper. President Cooper, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Joe. We're not getting fancy tonight doing this Zoom stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments at this time? Does anybody, Jim or Todd, does anybody else have a hand up that would like to address the council?
I don't see anybody.
Okay. Seeing none, we will leave that public hearing open. And we can move on to the next public hearing. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice for the fourth public hearing this evening?
I would kindly read it, yes. Public hearing relative to waiving inspection and permit fees for the 5 businesses selected for the downtown revitalization project.
Thank you. For this public hearing, Catherine Farrick, the Economic Development Director, is on the line and at this time can address the council on this matter.
Thank you, President Cooper.
Thank you.
In relation to the same program that I discussed at the last meeting, this is a waiver of all fees that the council can appropriately discuss and potentially waive for the 5 winners of the Downtown Business Revitalization Program. Part of the award package that was envisioned from the start was that these businesses would get, obviously, the grant funding, which is coming entirely from the state, free training through Harbor One U, free business plan review through SBDC and SCORE, and free mentorship through SCORE, and a free membership to the Chamber of Commerce as a result of this program. The one piece that I put in for the city, and I did make it a contingency upon council approval. So, whatever you decide to do tonight, that's the way that the chips will fall. So this is a waiver of the fees that the council could potentially waive for whatever the business may be. So, if there's a lot of, electrical changes that they have to make to their storefront, then this would apply to that. Or if there's a lot of, changes when it comes to, the structural integrity of whichever storefront they choose, this would encompass that. Obviously, the health department is a little bit separate. But these are the ones that the council can decide on, and the council can waive if they decide to do so. So I submit it to the council for discussion, for review, and any questions that you may have about this, please direct to me. But it's all part of that program that we developed to hopefully get 5 new businesses into our downtown.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Is there anyone that has any questions for Catherine at this time?
Mark,
Yes, Councilor Blair.
just a point of information for Kathleen. I believe, Kathleen, you're aware that we can't waive some of the fees because they go direct to an inspector. It's not on the city payroll.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I discussed with the heads of all the departments. The building inspector made me aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions or comments at this time? Council Conti, I saw you
I
come
would
off
make
mute.
the request that we close this public hearing and move forward.
We'll do that after we go through and see if there's anybody else in favor or opposed. But any questions at this time for Catherine specifically?
Mark?
Yes, Council Reynolds.
So I would just say, and this falls in line, I think, with a lot of what Councilor Delicio says, is that we're really trying to get some businesses in downtown. And if the fees were such that it's helping a business at this particular moment in time, you know, mostly I would say no, the city should be collecting certain fees that are reasonable and just. But at this particular moment in time and where we are in the country, in the state, and particularly here in Attleboro, I think we should be opening our minds to helping out small businesses. That's where they're struggling the most. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions for Catherine? Catherine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And at this time, I'll ask if there's anybody else to speak in favor. Anybody got, Todd, can you see the list of attendees?
I don't see anybody. Nobody's raised their hand.
Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak neither for nor against?
Again,
Being none,
no hands raised.
thank you. We'll declare that public, Mr. Conti already stated his intention, so I will declare that public hearing closed at this time, and we will move on to the reading of the final public hearing this evening. Mr. Withers, would you read the notice for the fifth and final public hearing this evening?
I already started, but I was muted, so. Public hearing, I did. Public hearing relative to the following loan order. Ordered that $946,000 is appropriated for the permitting, bidding, construction oversight, and construction costs associated with the replacement of the water main, including the road restoration on Deanville Road in Attleboro, Mass., collectively the project, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, of which amount up to $10,000 may be used for costs associated with the issuance of bonds or notes for this purpose. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $946,000 under Section 8, subsection 5 of Chapter 44 of the General Laws, or any other enabling authority. That the mayor is authorized to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out this project. Any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this order, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this order in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Thank you. Again, at this time, I would recognize the water superintendent, Ms. Winchell, to address the council.
Sure. Deanville Road, the leak over at Deanville Road was actually kind of discovered during leak detection in late 2017. And the way they leak detect, it took quite a bit of time to locate it. They gave us a general area that it was at the small end of Deanville Road off of Clifton Street, adjacent to the highway ramps between 95 and 295. In February of 2018, it surfaced. We actually found it. We shut it down. At that point where it was surfacing, it was in the highway layout. We did try to fix it internally. We hired a contractor that was certified to work on the highway layout. And at that point, when we went in to excavate, it we determined that the leak was not in the location where it was surfacing. It was somewhere within the actual highway ramps or under the highway. The way the current water main is situated, it's a 10-inch water main, and it's laid in a sleeve that goes under the entire clover leaf at the interchange between the two highways. So obviously it was nothing we were fixing on our own. I know some of the counselors were around when we did Commonwealth Ave a couple of years ago and completed that project. So it's a similar project. So right now the water main has been shut off for the past 2 years. There are no customers without water. However, it's affecting the fire flows anywhere between 10 to over 100% difference of what they would be with that water main online. So we contracted with CDM for design permitting, bidding, and we're nearing the final permitting with DOT, with CDM. And Roger Norton from CDM should be.
He is. I saw him.
Well, yeah.
I saw him.
He's the consultant that's been working with us for the last, many, many months.
Great. Any questions from the council? And I do have one question, which may lead to a couple of others. This was the one I thought in 2018. This was coming up out of the ground pretty quickly, if I remember right. Is that right?
Yes,
Kate,
it was.
I think you did the emergency measure. I forget where we.
I did. Yes.
Yeah. But I thought it was being repaired as part of the highway work connecting one end from one side of the highway to the other. Is that this loan order?
No, that was Commonwealth Ave a couple of years ago, and that was done under the North Avenue project. When they were doing the highway bridge over North Avenue, Commonwealth Ave was really close to that, so it got done with an agreement through the state. Very similar situation to where the main is failing, but yeah, different project.
Okay. But there was an emergency measure back in 18 to dig that up,
Yes.
to look to see where the leak was, if I remember right, because we were losing a lot of water.
You are correct.
Eroding.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Any additional questions for Courtney at this time?
Mark, it's Jay.
Yes, Councilor Delicio.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Courtney, thank you for this information. Just a quick question. Any of these funds are reimbursable by the state?
No, they're not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the council for Courtney at this time? Councilor Jackson.
I do. Thank you. So Courtney, how long do you expect this project to take to repair overall?
Once it's bid and permitted, the estimated construction time, I believe for this one, is about 4 months.
And so if I can follow up, please, Mr. President. So,
Yes.
so you'll notify all the residents over there of what's going on, correct?
Correct. There really should be very minor shutdowns. I know there is one resident that's on, again, that short end of Deanville Road on the Clifton Street side, that their service will be tied in to the new main when it's replaced. So they may have an extended shutdown, but when we have projects like this, again, there's the abutters list and that sort of thing that goes out. And when we have any planned shutdowns, we give typically 72 hours of notice before we shut off the water, and sometimes longer.
Okay. And another follow-up, please, Mr. President?
Yes,
okay,
certainly.
Thank you. So it says that the restoration of the road is also included. So does that mean that our DPW is going to restore the road once the water department is completely done, then DPW comes in?
It would be under the contractor for the road restoration.
The contractor will do it?
Yes.
DPW.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for the water superintendent?
Was it Cooper?
Yes, Mr. Cobus.
Thank you, Courtney. And with this one, can you talk about any potential alternatives that were considered? As opposed to, just replacing what was there, and if that were to break again down the road, I mean, we're talking about $1 million to replace this. Were there any alternatives considered as far as going, I don't know, any alternatives? We're close to North Attleboro. There's a couple bridges that go over the highway. Were there any alternatives that you had considered?
Right. Well, the first alternative that I looked at was leaving it shut down. And that's why we had the fire flows looked at. Because again, quick and easy, if it didn't affect anything, was to just leave it shut off and abandon it, because that would have been free. The problem with this main, again, it's for fire flows, it's an essential loop. And to loop anywhere else in that area of the system, you're looking at crossing the highway somewhere else. So no matter what we were running into, either looking at a brand new main under the highway, which would be more expensive because there's no existing sleeve, or just running a new main through the sleeve that is already at Deanville Road.
Perfect. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any additional questions for Courtney? I don't see any. I don't hear any. Courtney, thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming tonight. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Anyone on the line to speak in favor? Let me see if our attendee list whittled down any. I know that, Joe Citizen, I think I know who that is, but and Joe is still there, and Mr. Norton is still on the line, but I don't think the council has any questions for CDM at this time. So is there anyone else here to speak? I'm just going to go through and anyone else here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? Okay, Councilor Delissio, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
No, I don't.
That this public hearing is also closed. And we will thank you again, Courtney, for coming this evening. Thank you to everybody that came through the Zoom to give testimony on their public hearings. And if the committee has any questions for either one of these matters that are water related, the committee chair will be in touch. All right, thank you very much. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to recess.
Second.
Thank you. A roll call vote is required, and we'll begin with Councilor.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. All right. Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan. Ms. Cobus.
Yes.
Is that Mr. Cobus? I'm sorry. Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Yes.
Everything says unstable.
Did you say yes? Mr. Conti.
Yes, I said yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Conti
Ms.
says
DeSimone.
yes.
Ms. DeSimone. Thank you. Ms.
Yes.
DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair. President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0
Yes.
nays.
Thank you. Motion
11
passes.
yeas, 0
We are
nays.
recessed. Thank you. Motion passes. We are recessed 7:28 for committee meetings. I'm just going to mute and step away for a minute, and the committees can start their work.
That was painful. We got to do better next time.
Public safety and emergency management is canceled this evening.
Committee meeting, Jan.
It's fine.
Transportation and traffic is canceled as well. I just would like the committee members to know that I have asked the mayor when the TSC meetings might resume. So I'll keep you posted.
I'd like to call the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee to order at 7:30 p.m. Sitting on this committee are Councilors Dolan and Waterman. From the docket of April 21st, 2020, I entertain a motion to waive the following inspection and permit fees related to the 5 businesses selected through the business revitalization projects associated with the Urban Agenda Grant. Certificate of inspection fees up to $100. Electrical, gas, or plumbing inspection fees up to 35% of the inspection fees as required, whereby 65% of plumbing, electrical, and gas fees cannot be waived, as these fees go directly to contracted inspectors as payments for services rendered. So fire and inspection plan review fees of $100, and if additional inspection and permit fees need to be waived, a request will be sent to your honorable body at a later date.
Second.
That was seconded by Councilor Waterman.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So councilors, I see this as a similar to an investment that the 5 businesses coming in are coming in as a result of a $50,000 urban agenda grant from the state, and whereby the state is throwing in $50,000 and asking the city to participate just a little bit. I don't think this is an unreasonable request, whereby we're going to receive the lion's share of the taxes that'll be charged to these 5 businesses, no matter how long they survive. So I would highly encourage your passing this measure. Are there any questions?
Mr. Conti, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Do we know I know the 5 businesses were named in the paper, but do you have those names available?
No, the 5 businesses have not been selected yet. The 5 businesses are each going to be given $10,000. They can use the money to rent, or they can use it for payroll, or they can use it for accounts payables.
Right.
They have to have less than 10 employees, but the business owners have not yet been selected.
I feel like they were in the paper.
I know I saw something.
To my knowledge, they're not selected.
Oh, I must, okay. Anyway.
Well, yeah, okay. I wanted to raise the question because if they were named, I believe that the gym that I go to was chosen as one of these. So I just wanted to disclose that I'm a member at what I believe to be one of the recipients of the grant.
But where that has no financial interest in your behalf, I don't see that as a conflict in you participating.
Excuse me, if I might, Richard. I think Kathleen's referring to another grant to come in to help out existing businesses.
Okay.
This is for new businesses, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kathleen, so that, Peter is absolutely correct. What you read in the newspaper, and because I've been concerned, I've been very concerned about that, Jim. They were given, yes, they were given some grant money to help them along. But yes, it's totally different than what this is. This is a brand new business coming in.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Jackson. Thank you, Mr. Glenn.
You're very welcome. You're welcome.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Then the motion's in order. All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. there was a lot of discussion about the community development block grant budget today. And I just want to make sure, just take a moment to make sure I have the right motion in front of me. I think I got to go to my computer and look at my email to make sure that I get the right one. Because Virginia and...
Because we're still waiting on a public hearing on that.
No, hold on. I'm going to make it clear for you. As soon as I find my pen. So you have a matter before your committee for 400-ish thousand. I got to find it, but it's
73.
$473,246.
That's correct. And that was the matter. That budget was presented by the Community Development Block Grant Administrator last week or the week before, and you can vote that matter tonight. You also have coming to you through the mayor's communication additional CDBG money for the CARES Act, which you will need to call for a committee meeting next week before the meeting of the special meeting that's coming. None of you know this because all this happened this evening, but so that you can vote that matter, all to get everything to CDBG for 6/2. Prior to 6/2, Gary has to have it in his office. So, Richard, the matter that you have for 473,246 can be voted. The additional CARES fund, there is no public hearing required for those funds, and you will get that in your committee this evening when we get to the mayor's communication.
Terrific. So, councilors, from the docket of March 17th, 2020, I entertain a motion to approve the program year 2020 CDBG budget in the amount of $473,246 and to authorize the mayor to submit the program year 2020 annual action plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development on or before June 20th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Waterman. I don't think there's much more to talk about this. We all got a copy of the Community Development Block Grant Program year budget, which this year, including the CARE Act, will be 25% higher than last year. And that's very good news. Is there any comments or questions?
Councilor Conti, if I may.
Yes.
I do
Chair
not have the
recognizes Councilor DeSimone.
CDBG. I do not have the CDBG budget in front of me, but I know one of the recipients was the Attleboro YMCA, and I wanted to disclose to your committee that I am a volunteer member of a board over there called the Enterprise Risk Committee. I am not a voting member of the Y board. I have no financial interest in the Y. I'm not even a member of the Y at the moment, but I did want to disclose that relationship. They may be getting CARES money.
Thank you for your diligence.
All again next week, but okay.
Councilor Conti, if I may speak for a second.
Yes, please
am
do.
a employee of the Y. I am the social worker at the Y, even though I can't do too much right at the moment. I am on their payroll. Can you hear me?
I think that may cause you to abstain from voting on this measure.
Yes.
Because you're receiving funding from one of the recipients.
That is true, yes.
So,
Councilor
Mr.
Cooper,
Conti,
did
if I
recognize
may.
you?
Thank you.
Please do.
Mr. Waterman, if you did not fill out the appropriate disclosure, you have a clear financial interest in anything that happens at the Y, at being on the payroll, regardless of whether these funds affect your work. So I think for that reason, because you did not fill that disclosure form out prior to this meeting, we don't want anything to happen with the passage of the CDBG budget as a result of an inquiry into your affiliation with the YMCA. So That said, I think you should, as Council Conti suggested, abstain from this vote, because I don't want anything to happen with CDBG, and you did
And
not
so if
fill
I,
out the
if I may,
disclosure, unless you did fill it out. I'm not aware.
No, I did not. I did not
so,
realize that ahead of time. So
okay, so
I made the
Councilor
second. You probably-
Dolan. That's right. Councilor Dolan, are you willing to second the motion?
Second.
Councilor Dolan, you're muted.
I unmuted.
Is
I
that a
feel like we
second,
have a
Councilor
major
Dolan?
delay here.
I heard the
second. Second.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you,
did
Councilor
heard her.
Dolan. Good. So the motion's in order. Councilor Waterman is going to
So
abstain
Ty-
from the vote.
Ty needs to,
And
yeah, he has to declare that.
I'm yeah, exactly. What's the language? I'm abstaining
Yep,
from
so I
this
think
vote.
he
Waterman,
has
there's
to
a form.
abstain.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
Councilor Cooper, would you
Councilor
like the floor
Conti,
so you can
I think
explain to
you'll go-
Councilor Waterman?
please, and thank you. So I think the procedure should be, Council Waterman is going to abstain from this vote. I will be the third member of this committee for this vote. And tomorrow, you need, Council Waterman, you need to get in touch with Mr. Withers to get the appropriate form to to publicly disclose your affiliation with the YMCA. That form goes on file at the clerk's office. And then when it comes time before the full council, you can, depending on the way that form goes and how that gets submitted, you may or may not be able to vote on this matter, but we'll let that go through the process to determine whether or not it's appropriate for you to vote on this matter. But that can be done tomorrow or Thursday.
I will do that tomorrow. Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. We're going to vote this. Are you going to vote this tonight before the full council, Council Conti? Yes, you are. So,
I could hold off to next week because we're
appears
going to
as
have
if
to
you
have
are,
a meeting
so-
for the CARE Act.
you could hold off till next week, or you could vote it and Council Waterman could abstain. Either way,
So let's get it out of committee tonight.
it's up
Let's
to
get
you.
it out of committee tonight, and we'll take it up in front of the council next
I
week
agree.
when we deal with the CARE Act. Okay, good. So
Sounds
is there
good.
any other discussion
Thank
on
you.
the motion?
Just that I'm abstaining.
I hear no further discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Council Waterman, Council Cooper,
Aye.
nod your head. Thank you.
Abstain.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So that concludes the business that the Capital Improvement and City Development Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We're going to call for a committee meeting next week so that we can address the CARE Act. And I look forward to that meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Second, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion's in order. All in favor? Aye. I declare the Capital Improvement and City Development Committee adjourned at 7:44. Thank you for your participation.
I'm calling the Personnel and Human Services Committee to order at 7:44. And I have one item to bring out tonight from the docket of May 19th, 2020. I entertain a motion to confirm the following reappointment for the position and the term. Ian Daly as a constable for a term of 1 year expiring February 2021. Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any discussion at all? I can say that I have spoken to Ian Daly. He is very glad to accept this appointment and serve for another year. And that's really all there is to say. He enjoys the work. Is there anything anyone wants to add? Any conversation? Well, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. And there are none opposed. The motion passes 3-0. And the only other piece of business that I had tonight was something I wanted to share with the council and with those who are watching tonight. I wanted to just lift up that the Greater Attleboro Stronger Together Fund, which was in today's paper, has raised over $497,000. It was launched in April 20th. And I want to say something about where this money came from and what it's going to be able to do. I think it's important to not only our community, but all the surrounding communities. It came from the Lloyd Balfour Foundation, the United Way of Massachusetts. It's now called United Way of Massachusetts Bay and Merrimack Valley. Came from the Bristol County Savings Bank, the Attleboro Foundation Trust, the Attleboro Rotary Club, and many, many sponsors. And there were over 500 donations from individual community members to this fund. And right now, I believe $493,000 in grants have been given to local nonprofits. Some of them we're very familiar with, right down on Pine Street. It came in the form of, it's to help people who need food, medicine, rental assistance, utility assistance, to help agencies who are needing support due to the hardship of being closed or impacted by the coronavirus crisis. It's covering 25 local nonprofit organizations are being helped in not only in Attleboro, but North Attleboro, Norton, Mansfield, Rehoboth, and Dighton. And it's offering items like emergency cash relief, childcare for essential workers, counseling services for the isolated, and even unemployment assistance for those who lost their jobs, and much, much more. In closing, I want to read this quote that the YMCA sent me, which were one of the partners that helped organize this. The community members who have found themselves in need during this difficult period are encouraged to go to the Greater Stronger Together Fund's Get Help page at strongertogetherattleboro.org/services, and you can learn more about what's available and get assistance with items like food, utilities, rental assistance, medical assistance, and much more. Very proud of the communities that are served and all the organizations that were helped so they can serve individuals in need. And with that said, I call for a motion to adjourn the committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. That concludes the business of the Personnel and Human Services Committee tonight, and I'd like to call for a next meeting at next appropriate time. Thank you.
Public Works has no business this evening, but I do just want to make a comment to Ms. Councilor Conti. You were correct. Can you hear me, Councilor Conti? I'm not sure if you can or not. So I just want to let you know.
I
that you were
certainly can.
correct.
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. I just want to let you know those 5 businesses have not been chosen yet. They have to go through training and they have to submit a business plan. And once that is done, then they will be chosen. I did just find that out, so just wanted to make that clear. But I have no business this evening, but would like a committee meeting because obviously Councilor Holmes and I got a lot of business on in our committees. So I'd like to have a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time. Thank you.
I'd like to call budget appropriations order at 7:50. I have two quick motions. Tonight, I entertain a motion to transfer $78,792.65 from account 1124100-57830, 360 rather, citywide reserve fund for compensation third week, to accounts as follows. $2,977.58 to account 1135100-51100, auditor salary. $1,369.07 to account 1145100-51100, treasurer salary. $2,681.39 to account 1175100-51100, planning salary. $1,640 to account 1161100-51100, clerk salary. $65,000 to account 1220100-51100, fire salary. $974.61 to account 1543100-51100, veteran salary. $4,150 from account 1630100-51100, recreation salary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Todd.
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Got it. All right. My comments again have remained for both motions. This is just to fund the 53rd week pay line. We do this every year, and this is kind of run of the mill. It was budgeted for, so this is just to ensure these employees get paid the 53rd week of the year. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes 3-0. Thank you. From the docket of May 19th, 2020, I entertain a motion to transfer $16,934.27 from account 6000-578-360 wastewater enterprise fund reserve for 53rd week to account 6000-511-000 wastewater enterprise fund salaries.
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Before I adjourn, just wanted to do as I've been doing every week. Thank you to all the first responders and healthcare workers out there, but also want to say congratulations to HS class of 2020. I know this isn't how you envisioned your cap and gown day to be yesterday, but we wish you all the best. Keep fighting through, and you're going to be blessed with continued success. That being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:53.
Second.
Second.
All right, thank you, Rick. All those in favor? Aye.
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 We are adjourned at 7:53. Thank you.
I call the Zoning and Land Use Committee to order at 7:53. On my committee is myself, Councilor Holmes, and Councilor Delicio. We have one piece of business to go through today. There is another one that I'm going to hold temporarily, and that's the street acceptance for Avalon Estates. Councilor Jackson, you had asked me to look into something on this, and I still haven't done that, so I'm going to hold on to that one temporarily. So from the docket of April 21st, 2020, having complied with section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro as amended by conducting a public hearing after notice to abutters, the municipal council pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 82, Section 2, Master General Law, Chapter 79, Section 1, and Section 2, and Section 16-2.1 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, as amended, hereby lays out Erica Way as a public way and accepts said way and any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all is shown on a plan and profile entitled Street Acceptance Plan, Erica Way, Wynwood Estates, dated April 29th, 2019, prepared by Christopher L. Charette, PLS, which plan and profile have been deemed satisfactory to the Superintendent of Public Works. As part of such layout and acceptance, the Municipal Council hereby also adopts the following order of taking.
Second.
Well, 1 second. The Municipal Council of the City of Attleboro, Massachusetts, under authority of Mass General Law, Chapter 79, Section 14, and Section 16, hereby adopt an order of taking and take by eminent domain on behalf of the city the interest in real estate described in Exhibit A, attachment hereto. The purpose of this order of taking is to create a public way with opportunate public utilities. Included in the taking are any trees or structures which may stand upon the land taken. No damages are to be awarded for this taking. Betterments are not to be assessed. The supposed landowners of the premises taken by this order are set forth on Exhibit B attached hereto.
Second.
Perfect. So this is accepting Erica Way. This is Councilor Dolan. Actually, I spoke to her a couple weeks ago about this, and everything seemed in order. This is just accepting Erica Way. Any other comments?
I have one.
Sure.
Yay.
Was that your comment?
It was 9 years later. Yay.
Perfect. All right. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. That concludes the business for the Zoning and Land Use Committee, and move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The Zoning and Land Use Committee is adjourned at 7:57. Thank you.
I'd like to call the License Committee to order at 7:57, please. I have one motion this evening from the docket of April 21st, 2020. I entertain a motion to approve the license application to store flammable and combustible liquids and solids from Cannon Realty Group 4 LLC as new owner of 947 Newport Avenue Gas Station.
Second.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we had the public hearing. It's just new owners of, I don't know what it'll be called now, but Grampy's. So it's existing tanks, nothing's new except the owner. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and I'd like to call for an adjournment at 7:58, please.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
The City Property and Claims Committee has no business and is canceled this evening.
Ordinance, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee is also canceled this evening, but we'll call for committee meeting next appropriate time. Thank you.
So I would like to call to order the special committee. Oh, I'm sorry, Todd.
Yes.
Todd, your
Yep.
tax abatement review?
Tax abatement and review is canceled for tonight.
Very well, then I will call the special committee on rules and procedures to order at 7:59. I have one motion for you this evening. I entertain a motion to introduce the revised Attleboro Municipal Council Rules and Procedures 2020 edition. Motion calls for a second.
Second, weren't we waiting to hear back from the solicitor on this?
We are, but in the meantime, it needs to be entered into the docket for the council.
I was under the impression the committee was going to meet again to discuss the proposed changes.
And that will happen.
Okay.
So what are we
So where we
voting
are
on?
right now, let me explain where we are. Right now, the revised municipal council rules and procedures is at the city solicitor for her second review. When she has completed that review, the council administrative assistant, Virginia Stewart, will circulate the comments from the city solicitor to the committee and to all councilors. The committee will meet and discuss the comments made by the solicitor and make a recommendation to the full council. Then the full council will take up the measure and it'll pass or fail. So that's the procedure going from here on out.
Does
You have
that
a question?
process allow for further changes to the proposed, the revised rules, Rick?
Yes.
Councilor Conti?
Yes,
Okay.
we will have a special committee meeting after the city solicitor returns her comments and before it goes to the full city council.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes, but I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm not clear on what we're voting on right this second.
We're voting on actually getting the measure onto the docket for the council. Because up to this point, it got stricken from the docket. And so we can't consider it until it's back on the docket.
So,
Councilor
Council-
Jackson.
yes, thank you very much, Council Conti. So I believe what happened was there were things in the committee that were already stricken, but we were still having conversations about, our last conversations about what can be done, what should be done. And then it was realized that there was nothing actually in the committee. So this is now in the committee and it's being voted on. And so then he's going to follow up on it. That's my
You
understanding.
can't.
Councilor Cooper.
So this was the new rules, as your committee voted, were presented to the council and assigned to your committee, and it's on the agenda. So if you vote this tonight, it's before the full council, unless you plan to bring it back again. You'd have to bring it back again as new business as a result of the changes. So I think this was a placeholder in your committee, not requiring a vote at this time until you get the feedback back from the solicitor, which I know you're waiting for, and then have your follow-up meeting with your committee, as you suggested in the last time we discussed this, and then bring it in its entirety, the revised 2020 version of the rules of procedure to be voted, finalized by your committee, and then voted before the full council. That was my understanding.
Well, respecting your position, Mr. President, we're going to go with your take on it. And I'll ask Councilor Dolan to withdraw her second, and I'll withdraw the motion, and I'll adjourn the special committee on rules and procedure. Councilor Dolan, is that okay with you?
I withdraw my second, thank you.
Thank you. I withdraw the motion, and that concludes the business the special committee on rules and procedures has to bring before the committee this evening. Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Committee's adjourned at 8:04. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a chat from someone on regarding why, when he raised his hand during the committee meeting, he wasn't recognized to bring something before the council, but we don't seek public input unless the person is invited to the committee meeting. And when we get to committee of the whole, the person could address the council at that time. And we are operating under suspended rules. Because I saw that person on there, we will modify the agenda just slightly, Steve, that we reviewed today to do a committee of the whole to seek that individual's input because they are on the line.
Okay.
And then lastly, before we resume the council meeting, if you could all just make sure that you're getting your committee meeting minutes to Virginia so she knows what needs to come before the next full council meeting without having to go back and view the video again. That would be great. And with that said, I think we will call the council back, special meeting of the municipal council back to order at 8:04. And
Second.
We will go on to, thank you. We'll go to the mayor's communication, but I am going to just assign by number unless anyone, with the exception of the emergency measure that should be read this evening, I don't think there's any reason, unless somebody has feels differently about it, we will just assign by number. If you have any questions or you need us to slow down, please let me know. So, Mr. Withers, would you please read the mayor's communication?
Are you waiving it or am I reading it?
I'm going to waive, but when we get to the emergency, we'll have to do that one. So item number 1 is budget and appropriation. Item 2 is public safety and emergency management. Item 3 is capital improvements and city development. Item number 4 is budget and appropriation. Item number 5 is personnel and human services. Item number 6 is public works. Item number 7 is capital improvements and city development. And I should just also point out on item number 7, the account number for the 2 account is 1660. It currently reads 2607-587-380, but you received an updated communication, which you may not have received in time. And the actual account number is 1660-587-380. And that's going capital improvements and city development committee. Item number 8 is the emergency measure. And Mr. Withers, would you kindly read that?
I missed that. Number 8 I'm reading.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. Hegney and Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding funds needed to replace the police and fire radio systems that suffered a massive lightning strike on May 11th, 2020, which knocked out all radio communications to both departments. Currently, the radio systems are operating at less than 40% of their capacity. The amount being requested includes a 10% contingency. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $53,547.15 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account police radios. In accordance with Article 2, Section 2-9B of the City Charter of the City of Attleboro, I respectfully request your honorable body to consider this as an emergency measure. Copies in your packets.
Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee, please. Item number 9, capital improvement and city development. Item 10, again, there's an account number change here. Just make sure you all have the correct account number. It currently reads 6100-578-600. It should be 6100-578-300. Item number 10 will be Public Works Committee. Item 11, Capital Improvements and City Development. And item 12, Personnel and Human Services. Any questions about the mayor's communication? Okay, we'll go on to the, oh, excuse me, sorry about that. Other communication, as
Okay,
soon as I find it.
the certificate of vote from the planning board meeting of May 13th, 2020, with the recommendation to the council that the loan order of $946,000 for the Deanville Road Water Main Replacement Project is consistent with the Attleboro's comprehensive plan. The city's comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, please.
Yeah. And we also received a communication from Tom McIsaac of Falcon Drive requesting a stop sign be installed at the intersection of Bear Court Drive and Falcon Drive.
Transportation and Traffic Committee, please. And Council DeSimone, would you like to also refer that to Traffic Study Commission?
Yes, President Cooper.
Thank you. That is also referred to Traffic Study and Transportation and Traffic Committee. And
that is all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion.
President Cooper, does that require a vote? Does that require a vote?
Oh, yes, it does.
To refer it?
Yes, it does. Thank you for reminding me.
It's okay.
Roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Conti.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Mr. Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. That matter is referred to Transportation and Traffic Study Commission. Thank you.
All right.
Mark, you're muted.
Yeah.
It's already in front of ZBA.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. I just want to check my agenda here for one thing and make sure. Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get, that's why I was. All right. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to enter committee of the whole.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We need a motion is in order. We'll need a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Holmes. Steve? You're muted. There you go.
What did you ask me?
For a roll call vote for entering
Thank you.
committee of the whole, beginning with Council Holmes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Kobus.
Yes.
Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes. We are now in committee of the whole. I did see a chat from whoever is identified as Joe Citizen would like to address the council. If there's anyone else that would like to address the council, we'll recognize individuals one at a time. And let me get to, I saw someone else had a question. So, Jim, if you want to unmute Jay Citizen, they will have to identify themselves for the record and can address the council at this time.
Hello, members of the council. Joe Drazak, 121 Westminster Avenue, South Attleboro. Can you hear me?
Hi, Joe. Thank you. I can. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. I may have been a little out of sorts earlier with the point of the committee meeting and the committee of the whole. I get a little confused with that procedurally. Trying to follow along with you guys. I know it's a challenge to do it electronically and remotely. I had come before the council over 3 months ago and had a communication in front of the zoning and use committee in regards to the application for a marijuana shop off of Bacon Street. And the meeting has come and passed. I understand that, but there have been numerous times for it to be addressed as I had requested prior to the zoning board taking a vote on it when the council was the ones who created the ordinance. And I thought that there was some severe deficiencies in the ordinance. And I had spoken to counselors privately, publicly, and trying to get support and opposition of that. And as of now, there have been none who have been able to come forward due to the COVID-19 regulations and stipulations of, social distancing with meeting times and virtual meetings and stuff. But back in February, a number of them did come to the zoning board of appeals meeting, and they did not hear the case until after 10 p.m. And I realized not everybody could have done that, but I'm just curious to know why that wasn't brought up as a concern prior to this point.
So let me help you, Joe. I think you reached out. I know you reached out to me, and we've had a couple of conversations and email conversations about it. And I know you've also reached out to Mr. Kobus. This was assigned to the committee, but not necessarily assigned for them to take any action per se. The matter was before the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is the special permit granting authority for, as you well know, for marijuana establishment special permits. And that matter was considered by the council. I know Council Kobus sent you an elaborate email about the reasons why he was not, and then I'll let him comment if he chooses to, why he was not in favor and why he supported the ordinance as written and the Zoning Board of Appeals being the special permit granting authority. So there was communication. I don't think it had anything to do with COVID-19 necessarily, at least from this body. And I also believe that Council Reynolds, that you reached out to Council Reynolds as well. So I think that the council did consider your counselors that you reached out to did consider your request, but there was no appetite for making any changes based on the feedback and based on the email from Council Cobus. I don't know if Council Cobus or Reynolds or anyone else has any additional questions for you, Mr. Drazek, but I think that it is a matter before the zoning board of appeals at this time.
If I could, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Cobus, excuse me.
So with this matter, we've talked about it a few times. I've been out there to visit the site and look at it. I've also had a conversation with Gary Arasian about this, and ultimately I was comfortable with the measures that the zoning board was putting in place. And I do understand the concerns there. But I think the zoning board of appeals has it handled.
Any additional comments from the council on this? Mr. Drazek, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I appreciate your time. I know that other councilors have spoken up for various other causes, for and against. So I would hope that if you felt as strongly as I do, I've had to get legal counsel for this. I'm paying for out of my own pocket to defend what I consider the front lines of a residential zone against this infringement. There are dozens of people who are against it. They have filed forms and letters of opposition to the ZBA, but ultimately they are acting based on an ordinance that you guys enacted. And Mr. Blair had said at one point that, 46% of the people did not want this, and those voices should be heard. And I think that if the councilors can come out and speak in favor of ice cream shops in multiple numbers, that they can come and speak out against marijuana shops in people's front yards. So I appreciate that and would like to leave you with the thought as to how you would feel if it was in front of your house. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, excuse me, is there anyone else on the line? I did see someone else on the line, Jess, asking to be recognized, but I don't see her on any more. So if there's anyone else that would like to address the council, I see a Galaxy S10e, somebody D, and then a Crystal Hoyt. So if any of you are interested in, just please raise your hand through the app. If not, we can move to arise.
Second.
You know what, before we do that, Councilor Jackson,
I withdraw.
thank you. Let's just make sure that Crystal doesn't want to address the council on any issue at the moment.
Mark, Councilor Cooper.
Yes.
I sent her a private email. She was looking to tell her that it was Thursday night's meeting she was looking for, the zoning board of appeals.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for that.
She was in.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, great, thank you, Council Reynolds. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to arise.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Jackson. We require a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yeah.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes, and we will go on to, at this time, to committee reports. And
Thank
we'll
you,
begin
Mr.
with,
Cooper.
go ahead, Councilor Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper, President Cooper. I have an emergency preamble tonight. I'll read the preamble. I move that the Attleboro Municipal Council vote to take action provided in the city charter, section 2-9B, regarding the time-sensitive emergency to approve the transfer of $53,547.15 via the police and fire radio system.
Second.
Okay, little background on this. I would hope that my fellow councilors had got the email from Virginia regarding this, but I'll hit some of the high points on it. This particular incident happened on May 11th, 2020. The tower was hit that controls communications for our fire department, police department, and a couple other departments. But the fire and police department are down to roughly 40% of their usage or their power, and it adversely affects the safety of our firemen and police department personnel and our rescue squad. It's a lot of money, but it was hit, and it's an act of God. The only other thing I can say is that the administration is looking into what insurance we have. Deb Gould's looking that up at this time. There's a possibility we might get some insurance coverage, but the necessity is here. You know, we've got to protect our first responders, and the way we do that is letting them get this back up and running as soon as possible. There's a good possibility that it would get up and running by the end of the week. The reason for the high expense is we've got to go prevailing wages on a lot of this stuff, so meet the threshold.
Thank you. Any
Jay?
additional questions or comments?
With our chief, I know that on this, so if you'd like to make a comment.
Anyone else with any questions or comments?
President Cooper?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, so Peter, really nice job summing everything up. I mean, this is an act of God with the COVID situation on top of the everyday public safety calls. I think this illustrates that this is indeed an emergency. In just a slight correction, when I talked to Chief Hegney last Friday, I think it's down to 30%. So city last August was almost 44,000 people. To have only 30% coverage on the radios is seriously an emergency in a dire situation. So I would urge all councils to support this.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jay. I know you had a conversation with the chief. I also did a couple times over the weekend. Thank you for taking that call. For some reason, my phone wasn't working when he tried to get in touch with me the first time, and you stepped up to the plate, and appreciate you taking the call and getting the information.
Yeah.
Thank you. So again, this is regarding the emergency preamble, and we'll move to the emergency measure if this motion passes. Any additional questions or comments on the emergency preamble? Seeing none, this requires a roll call vote, and we'll begin with, I forget.
Ms. Holmes, I believe.
Ms. Holmes, yes, thank you.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes,
President Cooper,
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
motion passes.
Emergency measure from the docket of June 2nd, 2020. I entertain a motion that this Attleboro Municipal Council, as an emergency measure, approve the transfer of $53,547.15 for the needed repairs to the police and fire radio systems. And that goes to account 1210100-5855060 radio.
55060. Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional questions or comments?
No, President Cooper, we just discussed it.
Thank you. A roll call vote is, any additional questions from the council? Pretty straightforward. Any roll call vote is required, and we'll begin with Councilor
Blair.
Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Delizio.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
I
We
think
can't
we
hear
missed-
you, Steve.
Ugh.
Steve,
Mr.
I think you,
Delizio.
Yes.
yeah, there we go.
All right. Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
We already get. What's
No,
that?
you're good, Steve.
Okay. President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
I have no other business to see if we can require a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
President Cooper, the Transportation and Traffic Committee has nothing to report. We would ask for a meeting at the next available time, please.
Thank you. Council Waterman.
Oh, sure.
What about Councilor Conti?
Oh, Council Conti, I apologize. Rick, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, I have one motion to bring before the council this evening. From the docket of April 21st, 2020, I move to approve the following request of the mayor to waive the following inspection and permit fees related to 5 businesses selected through the business revitalization projects associated with the Urban Agenda Grant. Certificate of inspection fees up to $100. Electrical, gas, or plumbing inspection fees up to 35% of inspection fees as required, being 65% of plumbing, electrical, and gas fees cannot be waived as these fees go directly to contracted inspectors as payments for services rendered. Fire inspection and plan review fees, $100. If additional inspection and permit fees need to be waived, a request will be sent to your honorable body at a later date.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments, Council Conti?
No, Mr. President, I think we've discussed this completely.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote is required, and we'll begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Cobus.
Yes.
Mr. Delizio.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Conti.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That completes the business the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a meeting next week.
Thank you. Now, Council Waterman.
Okay, reporting from the docket of May 19th, 2020. I move to confirm the following reappointment for the position and term: Ian Daly to be appointed constable for one-year term expiring February 2021.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments, Council Waterman?
No, I believe Ian Daly is very interested in doing this again and is doing a good job.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote is required, and we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Delizio.
Yes.
Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business of the Personnel and Human Services. We'll meet again next appropriate time.
Thank you. Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, President Cooper. Reporting for the Public Works Committee, I have no business this evening to report. But I just want to say again, it's so nice to see all of you healthy, and I'm glad your families are doing well, and I can't wait to meet again in City Hall when it's appropriate. But I'd like to call the meeting at the appropriate time next week.
Thank you. Councilor Delicio.
Thank you, President Cooper. Reporting for budget and appropriations from the docket of May 19th, 2020. I move to transfer $78,792.65 from account Citywide Reserve Fund, Citywide Reserve for Compensation, 53rd week, to accounts as followed. $2,977.58 to auditor salary, $1,369.07 to treasurer salary, $2,681.39 to planning salary, $1,640 to clerk salary, $65,000 to fire salary, $974.61 to veteran salary, $4,150 to recreation salary.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional questions or comments?
No, sir.
Any from the council? Roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds, Ms. Reynolds, Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of May 19th, 2020, I move to transfer $16,934.24 from 27 cents rather from account wastewater enterprise fund reserved for 53rd week to account wastewater enterprise fund salaries.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments, Councilor Delicio?
None. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds, Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. President Cooper, if I could, just 30 seconds. I'm hopeful next Tuesday night we will have the budget and we will find ourselves in a bridge budget season. So we're going to hit the ground running pretty quickly with the budget once it comes down. We're going to be doing hearings next Wednesday and Thursday. We'll start those at 6 o'clock. Given the time constraints, we're not going to have every department come down, but we will get the ones that will probably have the most impact on that budget. Of course, that's subject to change. I think if we do this correctly, we'll be able to have 3 to 4 solid weeks of budget deliberation to ensure that this budget is passed appropriately so this government can continue to run as of July 1st. So we're looking to vote the budget out on, and keep me straight here, President Cooper, on June 16th. However, we'll still be calling for additional budget hearings just in case anything else should come down that we need to attribute. This is definitely going to be one of the more tricky and one of the more unique budget seasons we've ever faced, considering the situation we're in. So Virginia will be sending that schedule out, and I look forward to yet another budget season. So that is all the business we have tonight for budget and appropriations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Cobus.
Hello, reporting for the Zoning and Land Use Committee. From the docket of May 5th, 2020, I move that the city accept a land donation of 4 parcels located on the paper streets known as Ash Street and Pine Street, plat 45, lots 126 through 129 from John W. Hamill and Harvey R. Hamill. The subject property contains a land area of 22,500 square feet and is zoned General Residence A.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional questions or comments?
So we voted this out 2 weeks ago. This is, for those that don't remember, this is a plot of land in a floodplain that's between South Main Street and Peter Thatcher Elementary School. It's over there by Seabra. Taxes have been paid, and the recommendation from Gary Aerasian is for us to accept it. That concludes my comments.
Great. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Counselor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delizio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 21st, 2020, having complied with section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro as amended by conducting a public hearing after notice to abutters, the municipal council pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 82, Section 2, Mass General Law, Chapter 79, Section 1, and Section 2, and Section 16-2.1 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro, as amended, hereby lays out Erica Way as a public way and accepts said way and any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all as shown on a plan and profile entitled Street Acceptance Plan Erica Way, Winwood Estates, dated April 29th, 2019, prepared by Christopher L. Charette, PLS, which plan and profile have been deemed satisfactory to the Superintendent of Public Works. As part of such layout and acceptance, the municipal council hereby also adopts the following order of taking. The municipal council of the city of Attleboro, Massachusetts, under authority of Mass General Law 79, Section 14, and Section 16, hereby adopt an order of taking and take by eminent domain on behalf of the city the interest in real estate described in Exhibit A attached hereto. The purpose of this order of taking is to create a public way with appurtenant public utilities. Included in the taking are any trees or structures which may stand upon the land taken. No damages are to be awarded for this taking. Betterments are not to be assessed. The supposed owners of the premises taken by this order are set forth on Exhibit B attached hereto.
Second.
We just talked about this in committee, and I think Councilor Dolan summed it up best when she said, yay. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair. Mr. Blair. He's muted.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delizio,
Yes.
Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business for the Zoning and Land Use Committee. I call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Dolan. You're muted.
Sorry. I have one motion this evening for Licenses Committee. I entertain a motion, from the docket of April 21st, 2020. I entertain a motion to approve the license application to store flammable and combustible liquids and solids from Cannon Realty Group 4 LLC as the new owner of 947 Newport Ave gas station.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
No, we just discussed it in committee a little while ago.
Any additional questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Counselor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Clovis,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
D. Simone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. Counselor Dolan.
I'm sorry. That's all the business I have for licenses committee tonight, and I call for our committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Great. Thank you. Counselor Reynolds.
City Property and Claims has no business this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. And Counselor Holmes. You're muted.
Sorry about that.
There you
Ordinance
go.
Elections and Legislators Matter Committee does not have any business this evening, but we'll call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no old business. There is one item of new business, and for that, I'll recognize Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, President Cooper. Before I read my new business, I just want to let you know that I sent all of you an email this afternoon, late this afternoon, with regards to this new business. I'd spoken with Counselor Holmes ahead of time to let her know that I was bringing something out. I just didn't have the proper language and I didn't get it, just have it fully together till this afternoon. I did put hard copies also in your boxes today. So if you want to take a look at it. So I entertain a motion to refer to the appropriate committee for study and recommendation, the following requested ordinance amendment, that a change in parking ordinance 10-5 for the city of Attleboro be amended to reflect changes from the southerly side parking on Riverbank Road from Cliff Street to County Street. Recommended changes: 10-5.2A, prohibited on certain streets, delete Riverbank Road westerly side from 289 feet from County Street for 132 feet northerly. 10-5.3, time limited on designated places. A, no person shall park a vehicle for longer than 2 hours anytime between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on any day except Sundays and legal holidays on the following streets or parts thereon. Delete Bank Road from County Street to 130 feet northerly. 10-5.3, time limited on designated places. B, no person shall park a vehicle for longer than 3 hours at any time between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on any day except Sundays and legal holidays on the following streets or parts thereon. Insert Riverbank Road southerly 40 feet easterly from Cliff Street. Excuse me, bless me. 40 feet easterly from Cliff Street to County Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Who seconded that?
Councilor Dolan.
Delicio.
Delicio, sorry.
Counselor- Okay, thank you.
So just for an update, back in the fall, I met with Superintendent Mike Tyler, his foreman, Bobby Arugio, and several of the business owners over there. So think of the jewelry factory, the brewery, the gym. I think that museum is still there. The women's museum is still there. And then the big long parking lot. Well, there's no sidewalks along that side of the road. And this has been discussed, I don't know, since, God bless her soul, Judy Robbins was mayor. I know that it was discussed way back then. Putting a sidewalk there for those businesses, because when you think about it, the only parking spots that they have over there, the jewelry space has that little one close to their building. The gym, the brewery, they have plenty of parking space behind them. But as the street side, as far as like Coney Island and the China restaurant, it's just, they're trying to make more spaces, more parking spaces for people over there in businesses. We're trying to accommodate so that it's all the same, like it's a 3-hour parking, because it was a 2-hour parking in certain spots. And we just changed like 2nd Street and 3rd Street. And I think we changed 4th Street recently too. I'm not positive about that. So we're making everything just kind of flow together. But also with that, they're putting in new sidewalks, and they didn't expect to do this project this soon, but thanks to the administration and Catherine Friedrich, who has just come, full blown across the board with this project. It's getting done, but it's getting done earlier than expected. So we need to have this public hearing as soon as possible to get the input from the public, to make sure that, it's all going to work before they actually put in those parking spots. So the street will be a lot safer with those sidewalks on that side where the businesses are. You just can't put parking on both sides of the street, because then the street becomes narrower. And so in speaking with Superintendent Tyler, this is the best way to go, according to him. So any questions, comments?
Any questions or comments?
Sorry.
Seeing none, I'll sign that. Refer that matter to ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. And Councilor Holmes, this matter will require a public hearing. Would you like to do that on June the 2nd?
Please.
Thank you. So, we got to have a roll call vote. We'll have a roll call vote on the public hearing on the 2nd. And begin with Councilor Blair. I'm sorry. Steve, you're on mute. All my pens in here are dead.
Steve, you're on.
Oh, I found it. Thank you.
All right. How are we doing here? Mr. Blair?
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Conti?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Vice President Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We will have a public hearing on this matter on June 2nd. Before we adjourn this evening, I would like to just quickly review the schedule in a little more detail around the budget hearings, but also our schedule as we move into the month of June and hopefully start to open up City Hall a little bit more over the coming weeks. So as Jay mentioned, we will have a special meeting on the 26th starting at 6 p.m. That will be for 2 purposes. And it could be any legal matter before the city at that moment, but the intended purpose is to receive the budget and the budget message from the mayor, and to have vote the 2 CDBG matters. That will require a committee meeting to start at 6 p.m. for capital improvements and city development, and Virginia will post that for Councilor Conti so that he can start his meeting at 6 p.m. and immediately following start the special meeting of the council for the mayor to present the budget, and I will only recognize one committee that evening, and that will be Councilor Conti's committee to do the 2 items for the CDBG budget. As Councilor Delissio mentioned, we will have a committee meeting on May 27th and May 28th at 6 p.m. Those will be department head meetings to be determined by the budget chair, and in conjunction with getting those posted with Virginia. We will have a regular meeting on June 2nd. I want to note, though, that on June 2nd, we are going to start at 7, go back to 7 p.m. And we will have Zoom meetings and any of these meetings from now on through the month of June. And, I'll commit to doing these through the month of June, and we'll determine towards the end of June what we need to do in order to maintain social distance within the council chambers. You may remember, or you may have seen if you've come into the building, that Mr. Mamoli did set up the council chamber in a way to maintain social distance with counselors with some 6-foot-long tables. And we will do that for as long as we need to all be safe. But like I said, we will continue to do Zoom meetings through the month of June. And if you're more comfortable joining by Zoom, that's fine. Again, that regular meeting of the city council will be on the 2nd of June. On the 3rd, there'll be a budget committee meeting. And on the 4th, there'll be a budget committee meeting, both to start at 6 p.m. On the 9th, there'll also be a committee meeting night. We're going to go back to our regular schedule of first and third regular council meetings, second and fourth committee meetings. So again, that meeting will start at 7 p.m. And all the council committees will be posted and can meet at that time. There will be a meeting on the 10th for the budget committee. And that meeting will start at 6. And if all goes according to this plan, we will vote the full budget, the revolving funds, and the message on 6/16 at 7 p.m. That's a regular council meeting. That gives us some time. Not much, but it gives us some time. So I just wanted to run through that schedule to make sure that we were all on the same page, and the things that need to get posted so that we can continue to do Zoom meetings. We will just include the link go forward in the posting, and we will, you can let Virginia know if you prefer to come in or if you prefer to do the meetings via Zoom, and we will get this council chamber set up to accommodate those requests.
President
Any addition?
Cooper,
Yes.
Can you just repeat the meetings for the week starting on June 7th?
Oh, Virginia just sent you an email with the schedule, but it's June 2nd is the regular meeting starting at 7 p.m.
Right.
June 3rd and June 4th are both budget committee meetings starting at 6 p.m. And then the 9th is a regular committee meeting schedule. So we're back to our regular schedule for the month of June. All right. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Todd, again for Zoom. Thank you, Jim Jones, for getting us all together. And thank you, President Cooper, for keeping us all together, along with Virginia.
Yes, thank you to everybody. That it's been, it's every week is a new challenge, but we get through it. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility in making municipal meetings continue, the council and any of the others throughout the city that are happening via Zoom. So with that said, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We'll have a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:57 p.m. Thank you.
Good night.